Now, our next guest is among those in Washington warning that the drought will cause food prices to rise. He's also urged consumers to be on the watch for food price gouging. Joining us this morning from D.C., U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning.
Now, you just returned from a trip out in the Midwest. What is it actually like on the ground for those farmers?
Well, it's a very difficult time for crop producers. They're seeing their hard work this spring basically be impacted by very, very severe weather, very hot weather with very little rain. We got welcome showers yesterday in the Midwest and hopefully today, which may help the bean crop a bit. It may be too late in some cases for the corn crop. Livestock producers are very stressed because they don't have the hay in the grazing areas that they thought they would have, and the cost of feed is obviously going to go up. So many of them are considering liquidating their herds right now, which is really a sad time for them.
Yet the bright side to this is that the crop insurance program, which is supposed to protect against disasters, does appear to be working, right?
It does, and we're fortunate. The last time we had a drought this severe was in 1988, and only 25% of our producers had crop insurance protection. Now it's close to 85% of our producers, but it's necessary to point out that crop insurance does not help those livestock producers. That's why we're urging Congress to take quick action on the Food, Farm and Jobs bill that's pending in the House, so that the disaster assistance that would be included in such a bill could be enacted and put into place so we could help those livestock producers as quickly as possible.
You talk about these livestock producers possibly needing to liquidate. How are they going to do that? Where are they going to liquidate to? Who's the buyer? Is there one?
Well, there's a buyer, and that's why, interestingly enough, it may be that meat prices actually go down in the short term because of a glut on the market, but over the long haul, we may have shortages, which may reflect, as your report indicated, in slightly higher prices next year. Remember, the farmer only gets 14 cents of every food dollar that goes through the grocery store, so another thing to watch are energy prices. That obviously has a greater impact on food prices than even the crop prices that we're talking about today.
What kind of estimates are you building in for the cost in terms of extra aid to livestock farmers and other farmers?
Well, it's a resumption of the disaster programs that were enacted in the 2008 Farm Bill that were allowed to expire last year on September 30th because Congress didn't fully fund the disaster programs through the length of the 2008 Farm Bill. This is assistance that provided producers of all kinds, nearly 400,000 payments over the last 3 years, nearly $4 billion of assistance. So this would allow us to resume payments to those who have lost livestock and those who have lost forage to basically allow them to get through this very difficult period of time financially.
All right, some say that the farmers are actually in better shape than ever because last year there was record farm income, and many of them, as you mentioned, are protected by this government crop insurance. Will this weather crisis be more of a crisis for consumers in the end than for farmers?
You know, I think, frankly, it's going to be a problem for farmers, first and foremost, particularly livestock. Again, if we don't get Congress to act, if the House of Representatives refuses to act on the Farm Bill or provide assistance, these livestock producers have no other recourse than to liquidate, and liquidate at a time when they'll get substantially less for their cattle or for their pork than they would otherwise get. And the result is they may not be able to keep their operations in existence. That's what they're faced with. That's the stress of the moment. Consumers may see slightly higher food costs. We were anticipating 2.5% to 3.5% inflation this year. We're talking about 3% to 4% next year overall, so there may be a slight increase in terms of consumers, but the real pain is going to be felt by those farm families and those ranch families that have to make very difficult decisions about their operations.
Are you working with other leaders across the world to stave off really a global food crisis?
Well, I had an opportunity to speak with Minister Han of China this morning, and what I wanted to reassure him was that America is going to continue to be a stable and secure supplier of food across the globe, even though we're dealing with drought. Fortunately, with new technologies, we're probably going to continue to see yields in some parts of the country. We planted 5 million more acres of corn than we did last year, so that should help as well. In current estimates, we're probably looking at a corn crop that still could be in the top 10 corn crops in the history of the country. Obviously, there are demands and needs for that corn, but I wanted to reassure one of our principal trading partners that we're going to continue to be a stable supplier over the long haul.
What about from Europe?
Well, we haven't had a conversation specifically with Europe, but we will continue to visit with them. You know, China Canada, Mexico, Korea, Japan are major markets right now for most of what we grow, so obviously we want to reassure our major markets. The EU is obviously a market as well. We're looking to continue to work with them, particularly in the organic space where we just developed an equivalency agreement.
Just we only have a few moments left. You said you hadn't specifically spoken to anyone in Europe yet. Why is that?
Well, right now I'm focused on getting Congress to provide disaster assistance to our farmers. That's the most important thing I can do right now, is to help those farmers who are struggling, to reassure them that their government's going to be there to help. We've announced a series of programs designed to help, but the principal need right now is disaster assistance from Congress.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing thoughts this morning. That's U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack.